Hello, this is Rick Saltarelli with Salty Breeze Cruise Planners with this week's segment of Beyond Your Front Door. And today we have another guest from Alaska. Please welcome Shalley, and she is with the Grand Denali Lodge and Denali Bluffs Hotel, located at, you guessed it, right at Denali. So welcome to our show today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
And you
So
got
excited to be
pictures.
here.
Yeah, you have pictures in your background of both properties. But I happen to know that you are not a native Alaskan and you come from the great state of Florida. So tell us about your trip because you did what a lot of people did. They went to Alaska, fell in love with it, and never came back. So tell us about your journey.
Yeah. So a little bit about myself. I am originally a Miami native, and I worked actually at a hostel near the Everglades National Park. And through that, I met some incredible people who I ended up backpacking with in 2012 across the US. And along those journeys, I ended up making my way back home to Florida. And a friend of mine gave me a call one day and said, "You should check out this place called Denali." And at the time, I've never even heard of Denali. I didn't know what that was. And he was like, "It's in Alaska." And being from South Florida, Alaska is just so remote, way too cold. And, of course, you hear that it's so dark all the time. So it was just way out of my radar. And I did some research, and I decided, what the heck, let me just go try something new. And in 2014, I came up to Denali National Park. And I was searching for a new adventure in my life, I guess. And I had a wonderful time that summer. I met a lot of great people. I played in the park, of course, and did so many wonderful tours and activities. And I kind of was just hooked. Um, and then I went back to school, finished my studies in hospitality and tourism at FIU, and then came back to Denali in 2015. And I've been there ever since. I ended up meeting my partner in Denali, and now I now live in Anchorage in the wintertime. So it's the best of both worlds, a little bit of city life for half the year and a little bit of nature the other half.
Well, that is amazing. And you represent two incredible properties. So why don't you tell us about where they are and what kind of the differences between the two of them?
Yeah, fantastic. Um, so the Grand Denali Lodge and the Denali Bluffs are actually Alaska Native owned and operated by Old Harbor Native Corporation. It's actually a Native Alaska Native village out in Kodiak Island. So the hotels are located just 1 mile from the park entrance. So I guess that's what really sets us apart. And with being so close proximity to the national park. And so, as you can see from my lovely background, the Grand Denali Lodge is set right up top of Sugarloaf Mountain. We're actually above, like 2,000 feet above sea level. And our sister property is located right below, which is here, which is our Denali Bluffs Hotel. And that's basically within walking distance of downtown Denali. But both hotels are very different. At the Grand Denali Lodge, we're kind of away from the hustle and bustle of downtown Denali. We have 160 rooms. We have 6 cabins as well that are just nestled in the forest. And just our views are just so breathtaking from up there. And then at the Denali Bluffs, we have 176 rooms, 2 different styles of rooms. And at that hotel, it's just, the rooms are definitely a little bit more scattered throughout the property, but both of them just offer different, just a different feel, but they're both just really special hotels in Denali.
Sure. And so would one property be geared more to a different traveler than the other?
Oh, that's a really great question. So in pre-pandemic times, most of our travelers who would stay with us at the Grand Denali Lodge were definitely a bit more like higher end, or just higher end. So like those that were on some of those cruise ships like Adventures by Disney, Azamara, Silver Seas, who are just definitely looking for that wow experience that you're like staying on top of a mountain. So you're definitely paying for some of those spectacular views. And then at the Denali Bluffs, we're definitely starting to see a lot more families, a lot more solo travelers stay at the Bluffs. And I think it's because it just has this really sweet, homey environment. Like there's times where you walk into the lobby and everyone's just kind of hanging out on the couch. And well, now it's, with COVID going on, everyone's a little bit more spread out nowadays, but I don't know, it feels a lot more homey and more cozy. So yeah, I think you definitely see two different types of, I guess, travelers at both locations. Depends, I guess it just depends on what that person is looking for.
Sure. And so although both properties are a mile from the park entrance, and a lot of people, the big attraction really is Mount Denali. And we know that you can go in and take the Wilderness Park tour, which can only be arranged through the park service. So you just can't decide to drive that road on your own. You have to take one of the vehicles that's inside the park. There's lots of other activities to do in the area. So are there some of those activities that can be done right from the lodge?
Yes. And so I just want to touch note on that Denali Park bus tours. So guests are definitely able to drive their own car up to mile marker 15. And most of those self-guided hikes are within that front country of the national park. And yes, most of our tour partners do offer transportation from both of our lodges. And so they pick up and drop off, and there's just an array of activities for folks to do when they're visiting. So there's whitewater rafting, there's zip lining, ATVing, flight seeing, of course, and there's glacier landing up to Mount Denali. So there's just a little bit of everything to do. And or if those that are just want to take a little bit more, just want to just relax in the outdoors, they can absolutely do that as well. Like at both of our hotels, we have some really great outdoor seating. They can just take a moment, appreciate the outdoors, and just reconnect with nature. And I think after this past year, that's something that we're all just looking for, right? Just to really disconnect and just appreciate a little bit more what the outdoors has to provide.
Sure. And so we know that there's lots of activities. And you did mention earlier that anybody that's staying at the Denali Bluffs Hotel, it is kind of walking distance into Denali. And most of those activity companies have offices in Denali that you can walk to. But if somebody doesn't want to walk, is there another way for them to get down to the town center?
Oh, absolutely. So both of our hotels do offer complimentary shuttle service. So we drop off at like I like to call downtown Denali. We also drop off at the visitor center. We pick up from the Alaska Railroad station in Denali as well. And we also like to drop off at one of our favorite trailheads, which is called Horseshoe Lake Trail. And it's like on the way to the visitor center in the National Park Service. And yeah, so we definitely do provide that complimentary hotel shuttle at both hotels.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And one of the things that people may not think about Alaska being a destination for culinary experiences, but there are great culinary experiences in Alaska, and you have dining right there at both properties. Can you tell us a little bit about what's available?
Yeah, I'd love to. So at the Grand Denali Lodge, we do have dining on site. It's called the Alpenglow Restaurant. And actually, so the Alpenglow, just a quick fun fact, it's when you have the mountain range, but at sunset, you start seeing those like bright pink colors against the mountain range. So we have these beautiful, in our restaurant, we have these beautiful tall windows. So you definitely get to see that experience while you're dining. But at the Alpenglow restaurant, all of our dishes are just prepared with locally sourced produce by a local farmer named Jimi Hendrix, and he's fantastic. And I think that's one of the things when you think about Alaska, you don't think about that, especially that we're so remote, but we do have all of our produce locally sourced, as well as our seafood comes down from the Kenai region. But something that we're definitely known for is our tomahawk steak. It's this massive steak that's definitely shared for two or one. I guess depends on how hungry you are. But it's just so massive and so delicious. But something that's also really special is that our chefs, for 120 days that we're open for the season, we make a new salmon or halibut special each day. We never make that same special twice, which is I think is pretty cool in the Denali area. And if there are any like wine enthusiasts or sommeliers out there, our restaurant has also been awarded the Wine Spectator Award for the last like 6 consecutive years. And then down below at the Denali Bluffs Hotel, we have our Mountaineer restaurant, Mountaineer Bar and Grill. And there we serve more like barbecue inspired meals. So we have like ribs and hamburgers and macaroni and cheese, which is really delicious. In our lobby, we have the Perky Moose Cafe, and that's really great because we serve like made to order paninis, grab and go items. And in the morning, we have like a breakfast buffet that's served by one of our attendants. So we definitely have an array of offerings at the hotels.
Sure, and the grab and go is an important thing to remember for those who are listening, because if you're planning to go hiking, you can take your food in with you and of course, pack your garbage back out, but you can take food with you into the park and just pick it up before you leave the hotel in the morning.
That's right. Yep. And both properties also offer a box lunch option, which is guests can order it the night before and then pick it up the next morning. And it comes with this really cute insulated bag where it's kind of like your souvenir that you can take with you back home.
Sure. And so I do want to remind people that are listening that the properties are not open all year round. So I'm going to ask you, do you have a favorite time of year for guests to come and visit?
Oh, that's so hard. Well, I think Denali is always a really great time to come visit any time of the year. But gosh, my favorite time to come visit is definitely the end of August, early September. It's our shoulder season, but during that time frame, it's the fall colors start to show. It's the start of the Northern Lights season. Just the pace of life gets a little bit slower. There's tends to be a little bit less visitors. So I think it's just a really special time to come visit Denali. And also it's where the bull moose there, it's kind of like their beginning of their mating season too. So you start seeing these huge moose just like out in the wild. And it's some really great time for photography as well. So definitely that later part of the season is I love to recommend for guests to come visit.
Sure, and a lot of people want to see the Northern Lights, so this is a great time to see the Northern Lights and to see Denali and to see the wildlife and those beautiful fall colors all at the same time.
Yeah, I like to call it like the colors in Denali or like colorful time in Denali. I don't know.
Sure. And so one of the things I've been sharing with people over the last several weeks is when people think about going to Alaska, they all think about cruising. And I think that's more because the cruise lines have done a real good job of marketing Alaska. But you do not have to go to Alaska and go on a cruise, right?
No, I mean, I definitely agree with that. I mean, Alaska's such a giant state, right? And so I think when you think about Alaska, the first thing you think about is let's go on a cruise and go see, all those glaciers and visit the southeast. But Alaska's so much more to that. And so you can, start your trip starting in Fairbanks or from Anchorage and moving your way, moving along south or north. And there's also small day cruise operators that go out of Whittier or Seward. So I think Alaska is one of those states that you just have to come up more than once to visit, because when you go and do a cruise, it's really magical, but you're just seeing a small little portion of Alaska. And, and then you're just missing so many other great national parks in the interior of the state and some other just getting to learn about the history. And there's just so much more to see and do for sure.
Absolutely. And so how many nights would be a good time a good length of time to come and stay and to see everything, understanding that you may not see Denali the first day you're there. So you don't want to just go for one day. So weather could maybe stop you from seeing the mountain, and everybody wants to see that. So how many days would you say would be a good length of time to come for?
Right. So I'm all about fun facts. Only 30% of our visitors that come to Denali actually see Mount Denali in her full glory. And like you mentioned, like weather can definitely play a huge factor. I like to recommend at least a minimum of 2 days, but if you're able, ideally at least 3 days. And I say that because if you stay for 2 days, usually that whole second day, you're exploring the national park by one of those Denali Park bus tours, right? And usually that tends to be at least a 7 to 8 hours or a full day out if you go out to Kantishna, which is mile marker 92. And if ideally, if you're able to stay a third day in Denali, then that really gives you the opportunity to explore some of those local hiking trails or join one of those awesome tours in the area as well. So if you have the opportunity to play in Denali, I would suggest 2 to 3 days.
Sure. And so this is my final question for the day. What would you say to somebody that's been listening to my Beyond Your Front Door segments and is really getting interested in Alaska, but hasn't booked a trip yet? What would you say to them today?
Oh my gosh, just book it and go. Come up and visit. I think, as an avid traveler who's gone to different countries, and I love visiting different national parks in the US. Alaska is so different from other places. It has so much to offer. There's so much rich culture, rich history. The mountain ranges are so big, and wildlife are just almost everywhere. I mean, you're just driving down Anchorage and you'll just see a moose crossing the street. But you know, and I think just when you hear those things like, oh, Alaska's dark all the time or it's cold all the time, it's not true. It's not all year. Summertime is great and winter is just as magical. But if a girl like me who came from sunny Miami is still up here, I promise you Alaska's will be an incredible part of your travels and your adventure.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that with me. We've been talking with Shalley, and she represents the Grand Denali Lodge and the Denali Bluffs Hotel, both located just outside of Denali National Park, the main entrance. And we've been on Beyond Your Front Door. If you're looking for more information about Alaska or Denali in general, give us a call at 888-332-8202. We'd love to talk to you about how we can arrange that next fun adventure where you're going to see beautiful mountains, beautiful fall colors, abundant wildlife, and at the right time of year, amazing Northern Lights experiences. But it all starts with a call to us. Thank you very much for coming on and being with us today, Shalley. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on. Thank you.
And for those that are watching this video, there will be a link to another video that I have created. It is a still picture video of some pictures of the lodge and some of the statistics. So if you're interested, watch for that link as well. And if you have any questions, give us a call. Thank you.
Thank you.